So, friends, I believe we are live on the Facebook and we are waiting slightly a second for the YouTubes. And I believe we are in both places. Yep, ready to go.
Hello, welcome to the 24th episode of Unifying Force. I'm Kat, joined by Dave and Gio. How is everybody?
Hey, doing really well. Having a lovely Sunday morning this morning.
Yeah, good, thanks.
All right, so today in Live Celebration Week, we're going to talk about the cult of Star Wars and why so many people travel around the world to come to these celebrations. Who would like to start, Dave?
Well, I've been plugging this on a couple of our shows lately is like almost like a pilgrimage, almost like the Hajj. Is we go and every so many years, and you're expected at least once in your life, if you consider yourself a true Star Wars fan, to make the journey to Celebration, just for the potential to touch the garment of the Maker or one of his disciples. Is I think that might be slightly sacrilegious and might be somewhat overblown for myself personally, but I don't know that it's overblown and sacrilegious for some people. I think it really is that kind of religious experience for some of our Star Wars brethren. What do you think about that, Gio? Similar, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that you can see will be a parallel for some parts of the fandom. I think that's one of the many great things about Star Wars is there are so many tiers and so many groups and levels and gradations within this kind of overall broad group and kind of huge community feel. And one thing that really strikes me is the friendliness and acceptance that I think a lot of the diehard and casual fans of Star Wars can really feel. And sometimes that's something that needs to be experienced. It's a kind of an analogy that I guess some people would put to things that are maybe more either conceptual or mystical or spiritual. That sometimes you can talk and you can speculate and you can have these theories and these imaginations, but to actually put it into practicality and to make it tangible, to be able to see and feel and hear Star Wars in essence in one physical place will hit home that much harder for some people and really take their kind of appreciation of it to another level. And I think what's so fantastic is, yeah, everyone is entitled to their level of connection to it, and there's no right or wrong. There's no kind of discrete boundaries that things kind of fall into. It's just you go there, you've got the passion with, a property, a franchise, as Star Wars is in these stories, then that connects you to people. Connect you the way supporting a sports team can, or being part of another aspect of the community, and it's really just something that if whatever you're going through in life, whatever stage you're at, whatever kind of age or background you have, if you've got that that investment in something just imaginatively, then you're kind of there. And to find a community of people wherever it may be that share that, even if it's just a single note rather than a whole kind of track of things that might draw you to Star Wars, that's something special. And to see that brought about into a particular place is fantastic, and that's exactly your analogy is great. I mean, yeah, it could be a little sacrilegious, but yeah, the pilgrimage thing is a great metaphor for how it works, and how the physical experience can really elevate something and deepen someone's connection, beyond just using the other senses, the just looking and hearing and talking Star Wars, but actually kind of being there, and feeling it.
Like we become the Star Wars. It's no longer like an outside thing. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah.
Well, I initially my first celebration I went to was Chicago, and that was only because I happened to be scrolling through the newsfeed on Facebook when there was an article saying that the tickets were live, and I commented kind of flippantly, like with a friend. I'm like, hey, we should all go to Chicago celebration. I'm like, okay, and then they bought tickets. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this, and so I just bought tickets, and then it just became a thing, and I went there, and it's like, this is really cool. Almost regardless of whichever IP it was still really fun to go to like a convention like that across the country. And so, yeah, if you will, there's a lot of people out there, of course, who don't live around a bunch of other fans. They're just maybe the only fan in their family or on their street. So going to celebration to meet everybody, and it's so easy to make friends with strangers there, and just friends that you're going to keep for years afterwards. And like you said, being able to meet some of these people face to face, the maker, so to speak, is really cool. Going to the panels and just hearing about how all this stuff was made. Even if you've already heard the stories a million times, it's just something extra special to hear it in person. So it's just, and of course, when you're browsing the vendors, you always find surprises of things that you want or that you didn't think you wanted. So yeah, it's just something extra special that, a lot of fans have it. Like Star Trek fans have that for their annual convention and in San Francisco, and then the Doctor Who fans have that with their convention in Los Angeles. So it's, except unlike those ones that stay in the same place, I think it's really cool that Star Wars Celebration travels around the country and in a few instances around the world to help bring it to more people and expand the fan base.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the coolest things that going. I was going to mention that later on, as I'm glad you brought it up, is that we're not different than a traditional pilgrimage in Islam. Is we don't have to go to a specific holy place, because if we were, we'd be going to like Tunisia or the Redwood Forest or Death Valley. I don't know that they're quite prepared for the 80,000 people that are going to descend. I don't know that we're prepared
Or the
for
8,000,
going
yeah, would be
and
great.
spending that
Well,
time in Tunisia.
there actually is a
Yeah.
Mad Max convention out in Death Valley called the Wasteland Festival, so that can be pretty cool too. To be
Wow.
prepared to venture out into the desert and hope you don't die or get shot by Tusken Raiders and scavenged by Jawas.
Well, that would be amazing. Okay, so I take that back. I think maybe I want that to happen now. But no, is we're moving around the country, and one of the things that I'm excited about seeing is one of the reasons why I changed my flights and stuff to be there on Sunday, is because I want to see that ending in the announcement of where are we going to go next? Where's the next celebration going to be? We've done the middle of the country. We've done Chicago. We've done Anaheim. There's been Indianapolis was one point as Denver, London, Japan. So I think seeing where this is going to go next is going to be part of that amazing, and part of the inclusivity that the Star Wars cult has. Everybody is right. Everybody is entitled to their own levels of fandoms and the sharing of fandoms, except if you're some of our friends, you can't Star Trek and Star Wars at the same time. That's just not acceptable to but I think that's only in joking. But yeah, is we're gonna have people there who like you did for Chicago, is just like pick up and decide to go on a whim and a lark. You're going to have people that must go to every celebration. I mean, you all know that we have several friends who have been to all of the U.S. celebrations. I think we've had some who've been to every celebration since like 2, including the internationals. So it's a widely varying experience and need, I guess, to do this pilgrimage.
Yeah, I think there's that kind of special alchemy that can happen when you get X number of people together in a certain room, in a certain setting, and there's a plan, there's a structure, but then there's also this ability to have these little spontaneous experiences, which I think is special. I think it's almost like you can compare this to any kind of actual physical experience. Like why what's the appeal of going to a concert versus listening to your favorite band or artist just at home? Well, I mean, that's a no-brainer for like the acoustic differences, the atmosphere, the energy you feel. And I guess I don't see why you wouldn't be able to say the same things for a convention, for the bringing together of people for a particular thing. There's a focus, but with the treat that is Star Wars, you've got so many aspects of it that are so wide ranging and so standing the test of time almost, because this started coming up to 45 years, right? And it's going really strongly, and it's this now such a breadth and depth of content, of stories, of aspects within loving this property, that you're going to find at least one thing that's awesome and unique and special for every time you experience a bit of Star Wars in person. And I think you can definitely say that's also something when you go somewhere a little bit different, a little bit special. And maybe the fact that this has been delayed a little bit for unfortunate circumstances can actually really fire the engines underneath us and think, wow, it's the delayed gratification is sometimes better than the instant, I like this, I want this, I'll order this now kind of thing. So that's kind of like the way culture and society has gone, with the way everything is kind of online and connected, and we've had to do these things with lockdowns and so on. So to see things in person again, the word celebration could not be a better title, I think.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that one up too, because I think this kind of what makes this almost cult-like and cultish is origins of conventions, Star Wars conventions, Star Trek conventions. They started about in a period when we didn't have new Star Wars. Right now, okay, we've got this property coming out and this property coming, and we're hoping for an announcement about this other property at Celebration itself. But that's a great shirt, by the way. But when the conventions, science fiction conventions and Star Trek conventions and Star Wars conventions started up, it was because of this need for fans to get together and talk about the property outside of going to a movie theater and seeing a movie together, because you couldn't do that, right? Yeah. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, I guess that's part of it. Provided that you make friends with people while you're there and hanging out with them, and there's all sorts of cool stuff to see. But yeah, it's like when you go to any type of convention or show, it's like, if you go on a whim, you're gonna probably have a lot of fun because you don't have any expectations, probably, which means you're gonna be just that much more surprised by what you see there. But then again, I feel the same way whether I'm going to the Reno Gun Show or the air shows, or out of the house and going on a trip. So
yeah, let's talk about a little bit about why, and we're being a little bit facetious with our title of this because we've talked about cults in Star Wars before. Why are we calling this the cult of Star Wars? What makes this so much more of a cult? Because not within necessarily our immediate circles of friends, but within the level of people. I experienced this just the other day. It's like, oh, you're not going to be here next week? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? And like, oh, I'm going to Star Wars Celebration. And you get that look. You don't get that look when you tell somebody, oh, I'm going to Chicago to watch a Bears game. But when
I think that's also because when Star Wars started out, it definitely was a cult of fans, just a small group of people. I mean, the first inkling the public got of Star Wars was a presentation at, I believe, the 1976 Comic-Con in San Diego. But while there are undoubtedly millions of Star Wars fans around the world, there's only a very select few who actually go to Celebration, and that's seen as like, well, you're even further down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and are probably more likely to be able to answer, to beat anybody in your town in a Star Wars trivia quiz than other people. So it's like it's like an extra layer deep with all the, when you're actually going to all the events like that. And people like to jokingly, like even when we discussed our the cults in Star Wars and we made all the real world parallels, it's like, yeah, there's cults which are outside the mainstream, like all of them start, but then some of them end up going mainstream, but that doesn't mean they weren't a cult originally, because Star Wars is certainly mainstream now.
Yes, mainstream, and you're right, mainstream in some aspects, but mainstream beyond that. And then in the chat we have the mention of not everybody even knows this is a thing. Is Krista mentions that every time that she says she's going to Star Wars Celebration, they think she just means like going to Galaxy's Edge. It's like, so
Yeah, which is only kind of recently a thing in itself, in a way. So, and I guess that's kind of for whatever our individual takes are on the newer films and stuff. That's been one massive support to help Star Wars really return to the mainstream and be a mainline headlining topic of conversation in terms of movies and just in terms of things to do and things to experience, because you've had that house of mouse money and now there are actually physical places that you can visit, like Batuu, the Galaxy Edge West and East, and these outposts. And I think it's kind of like when the more physical location something has in the real world, maybe the more real it is to some people, that that they can't, maybe they wouldn't really conceptualize it as a physical thing to experience, or maybe as an event to look forward to until they hear about it, and then it's like, oh wow, there's actually a thing for that, and it's not just a couple of handful of people, it's thousands, and over several days. It's not just a kind of a one-stop meet and greet event and that's it. And it's the fact that it's recurring and it has this kind of enduring appeal. I think it speaks to how Star Wars generally has this enduring appeal, and so if the desire is going to be maintained, and it will be, then there's always going to be this looking forward to the events and building up the anticipation by having somewhere in real life to go to and to experience that. I feel like I'm repeating myself a bit with the whole experiential thing, but some aspects of things in life, I guess definitely like getting behind your bands, sports teams. I think anything that was kind of like a supporting thing. It hits completely differently when you're there in real life, and that's something that you can really appreciate when you're there, and it gives you real wanting to kind of share that with other people, both at the event itself and then before and afterwards, because you'll have these experiences and these stories. And I think that kind of positivity around things like celebration, that enthusiasm can be infectious in the very best kind. You've got the stories, there's that little spring in your step, that smile, that you're just thinking about what you might experience, what you have experienced, people you've met, new faces, old faces, and that I think that's part of the kind of cultish mentality, in a way, that you really do want to share it and spread it with other people, because it's bringing some extra level of meaning and desire to keep enthusiastic about these stories, and the kind of classic tropes of good versus evil and hope and remaining, and the adventure and the escapism, all those things which are kind of broader conversations as well. They are all encouraged by things like celebration, and I think that is something that is very difficult to just say off the cuff to somebody if it comes up, oh, what are you doing next weekend or end of this month? It's yeah, I'm going to the Star Wars Celebration, and I think it can be a great way into some pretty fun conversations as well.
Well, and I mean, it's there. You've already given yourself some connotation as being an extremist just by declaring yourself a fan of something. By its nature and definition, you have declared yourself a fanatic for that thing. And that's kind of what leads it down the rabbit hole towards this is being a cult. I mean, and they're definitely going to be sects of the cult that will appear at Star Wars Celebration. You know, you're going to have the Mandalorian merch, you're going to have the 501st, you're going to have just people that gather that do mashups. You're going to have people that gather that just all have. There will be photo ops for everybody who has this one particular red shirt that was popular for a while there. I may or may not be one of the people going to that. But, so talk about a little bit more about aspects of what's going to happen and be there at Celebration that makes it cultish.
Well, sometimes you have like fan clubs will do, aside from having their own booth set up, they'll do spontaneous demonstrations on the exhibit floor. I don't know. It just honestly never seemed really cultish to me, other than the fact that some people actually choose to go to Celebration. It was kind of like, okay, like I said, it's like a convention, so it's cool. But I mean, last time we had the what was it, the running of the will of the what is it, the guys,
The guys
what's the
of the
guy's name?
Cantonos, I can't think of what it's called at the
What
moment.
his name is? Yeah, running through that was actually really funny. And I was sitting over in the corner of the building where they were all gathering for this, and I wasn't sure what they were doing. And when they started taking off and running and chanting through the crowd, I'm like, that was something special. It's being really funny. Like that admittedly is a more narrower sect of it, because of all the people to cosplay as and run through in a pack even and run through. It's like, yeah, let's not get a bunch of people to cosplay as Star Wars civilians and running. No, let's get them all as a specific character who was holding the Camtono. And they weren't even dressed like him either, because in the movie, the guy's just wearing like a beige kind of outfit or something. But they were wearing what looked like orange Rebel pilot uniforms and were holding the Camtonos with them. And I thought that was kind of odd. It's like a mixed cosplay. I'm like, okay, I can see that this is really different.
Well, and you get all of that. That's just the minutia that comes out and people want. Because I mean, there will be people cosplaying as Pink Shorts guy, and now since the last that's happened is now been removed digitally. The like jeans kid that's like shows up in the one little corner. There's going to be people with like half of a bulkhead and just like jeans and a t-shirt sticking out the sides. All of that sort of thing is going to happen. It is, yeah, I guess you gotta talk about, and here's where I'm gonna go. Is Catherine's opened the door and said, well, it didn't seem cultish to me. Well, because you're one of us, one of us, one of us. When you're on the inside, do you see it? Now, unfortunately, we're not going to have people from the outside watching this show to give us that perspective.
Well, it's funny that you're mentioning that, because right now I'm at this British car show, and that is only British cars allowed. So that's, I guess, another cult. But it kind of looks the same as all the other car shows in terms of a bunch of guys sitting around showing off their cars.
Yeah, it's that thing. And I mean, we can totally call this and accept this being the cult of Star Wars without the negative connotations. Hopefully we're not, drinking the Kool-Aid. We'll be drinking the blue milk, which is, not quite as
Join our family.
That's right. Join our family. I mean, that's what we're doing here, is we're talking to our family recruiting. And that's what Ad Sanders is sitting here saying over here in the chat. First celebration was 2017, and the best part is talking and meeting other fans, is other fanatics, other like-minded individuals that we started off the show saying, you may not get a chance to do that at home. You are the Star Wars person in your family, in your town, in your circle of friends. And you're going to be amongst a family of 80,000 is what Reed Pop is estimating at this point. 80,000 people over the 4 days in those events. And I think that's what I'm looking to too, is we've at least over the last what 2 years going 2 years that we've had this opportunity to make friendships and families online through our love of Star Wars. Because I mean, I don't know how many people know this, but the three of us have never actually crossed paths in real life, you know, been able to be in the same place at the same time. But so many of our online friends are going to be able to join up and meet up in this area, and I'm sad that it's not going to be the three of us at this time. But there are future celebrations and future dates that may be coming where that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely right. And yeah, that's the thing. We've been able to kind of find our community here and our virtual cantina family, and that's something really special. I mean, it's such a number of factors that have to kind of line up for these things to happen, and to be able to share it in any kind of way with other people is something really special. And I don't I don't take that for granted at all. I think it's been a pleasure. It's been really cool, and it's yeah, it's something that connects us in a way that you know, it doesn't necessarily happen in other things. And I think that the ability to kind of hang out in person will be awesome when it comes along, and I'm glad that there'll be opportunities in the future for it to occur, and for us to see each other, and also meet other people and meet new friends, and widen the this community that we've got here. It is something pretty special to have this level of passion and commitment to something that is essentially escapism, and that doesn't necessarily undermine it at all. I think, in fact, that might even make it a stronger a feeling, because when maybe things aren't so great, or things are difficult, or things are just, you know, a little slow, a little mundane, a little maybe too ordinary, to have something fantastical, and then to have fantastic people that have that same burning passion is awesome. And there aren't that many opportunities to have that, so it's definitely appreciated.
Well, let's talk about, because we've got over in the chat, is let's talk about, we've talked about meeting other like-minded folks, but like I was saying before, the opportunity to touch the hem of the garment of some of the royalty, the celebrities. Well, we have one of those over in the chat. Tim Donaldson is here. And Tim, for those of you who don't know, is one of the OG Jawas from Star Wars A New Hope. Is like, this is going to be a big deal. It's a big deal for me. I'm looking forward to meeting Tim at the Boonta Eve Cantina, our third annual event. Plug. See, Spencer, I did that right there. Fulfilled my requirements. But, you know, I want to meet Tim because we've done an online show like this together, and we've had a really special hearing his story and things. But, you know, there are people who have not even seen that, who go, he was in the Star Wars? I need to go and meet and be, you know, make him physically real. How cool is that going to be? And what's that like for people? I mean, Catherine, you've done it. You've been there. Like, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, because I remember the first time I encountered somebody from Star Wars was actually at a local con in 2014. It was Billy D. Williams. And I'm waiting in line, and at first I think, okay, this will be kind of fun. But then once you actually step in, and first thing I got both an autograph and a photo op. The first thing I did was a photo op, and the second I stepped in there for it, it's like you're just totally enveloped, and it's like, oh my God, it's Lando. It's somebody actually from those three iconic films, and you're just kind of overwhelmed by it. And it didn't matter that it lasted a few seconds. It was amazing. And then when I went to get his autograph, we actually talked for a bit, which was even cooler. And it's like you said, it just kind of, it's making the person that you're watching on screen physically real. And I am sorry that I missed Tim at because the crest that he was at on May 4th for Star Wars Day, that's in my stomping grounds, and I missed out on that last second. But I'll hopefully make it to Celebration next time for our next Bunta Eve event, and hopefully meet him there. But it's awesome. And same when I met, like I did the dual photo op with Ray Park and Ian McDiarmid. My God, I walked in and I was like, Your Majesty, when I shook his hand, it's the Emperor. How could you not, And Ian thought that was flattering. I thought that's really neat, and you just kind of feel that when you're meeting these people. And one of the other ones I probably geeked out at the most was Lauren Peterson, because I'm really a fan of how they actually make all this stuff. Because I went to film school and make short films and stuff of my own. So meeting him, who just built all the models and in charge of the model department throughout the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy, that was really something, to meet the actual little makers as well. So that it's something extra special. And when you guys experience that, be it at this celebration or the next, it's going to be fantastic.
Gio, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's something that you can't really replicate anywhere else. That that in-person lived experience and seeing somebody in the flesh, and just to realize that that's a person just like you and I, but then also they've, through their artwork, through their work, through their portrayal, or through their behind the scenes, hard graft, have been able to produce something that you really cherish. I think that is, it's not something you can underestimate, really, and not something you can really experience other than in person. And the opportunity to meet Tim Donaldson, that would be fantastic, and to see other people. There's so many elements and so many hundreds of thousands of hours that go into making just a short part of film. And to think, you've got the original trilogy, then you've got the prequels, the sequels, the animated shows, the entire plethora of graphic novels, comics, and new novel series with their own eras, like the High Republic. There are so many different ways to almost get starstruck in a way. And it kind of might, in saying this, it might seem a little weird to say that about maybe people that you've just seen as like names on the credits of films, but then to know that they've got those stories, they've been there, done that, they've got a little bit more than just a t-shirt, the way we might do. That's something that I don't think you can really. I'm finding it hard to articulate almost how to really say that in other ways than just to give it a go and experience it. And I think, as Catherine mentioned, sometimes if it's something that you kind of spontaneously, those little happenings that could happen at conventions, I'd imagine you can see things and notice things that you just wouldn't with watching the videos, watching highlights, or anything like that, reading releases and announcements online. And so to feel that in person, that's going to be something really special, and something that whatever you kind of way into Star Wars is as a fan, whether it's the technical side, the filmmaking side, the story side, the escapism, the collecting, the cosplaying, just the kind of imaginative and kind of speculative fiction, the hundreds of other product lines of merchandise, the reading material, the audiobooks now, that is such a fantastic new way to experience Star Wars in of itself. And then there's an entire other universe in terms of what can be done in terms of video games with Star Wars, which is something that I like to keep an eye out for, because there have been some fantastic stories told within Star Wars in that format, which are worth digging into, and to to come across a place where you could meet the creators and the crew behind those sorts of things, which might feel a little more niche, but once you're there, I think the going down the rabbit hole is a great way to say it. It's your first step into a wider world, and you get to experience something a lot bigger and more encompassing, and that's really cool.
Yeah, so I'll give you an analogy that kind of goes to this. Is I've met one person from the Star Wars so far, and he was amazing. Okay, I was at a local con here. I've met Giancarlo Esposito. Okay, someone that I've seen. I was like, wow, that's amazing. He's does a fantastic job in the Mandalorian. Got an autograph, and I was great. I was excited. I was happy. But at that same con, I met Sergeant Slaughter, wrestling icon and from GI Joe. It's like I had this man's toy. Okay, I had him sign my original file card. Okay, I just about needed my mommy there with me to walk up to this man and have the arm in arm. It's my profile picture if you guys want to look. It's a fabulous photo op, and I'm just like it was
No
not
words
the
needed.
same. It's
Yeah.
it's a different, and Tim's over here in the chat saying that he is always in awe when he meets Star Wars actors. It's like, you are a Star Wars actor,
One of
and
them.
and you do that and you have it. It's just that special feeling of things that happen.
I can't imagine also how much more special Tim's experience has to be when he told his story that it's like the coolest field trip ever, and then to not even realize what it's going to be, and then find out that it's like, oh my god, it became Star Wars. It's like with the other actors, yeah, they know what they're signing up for because they read, they memorize their lines, all this kind of stuff. But Tim sounded like a genuine adventure, like you were saying. Take a first step into a larger world, and it
Yeah.
makes it fun to think about going to death-defying places like Death Valley to go see the sights.
Yeah. I think that's it, and I think we've hit the nail kind of on the head. And I mean, unless you guys have a lot more out there to it, I think this might be like kind of one of those little shorter episodes where we've talked about what we've talked about, and we'll not beat the dead horse. But you know,
Well, about that, the one other thing I'll say for people who are not going to Celebration, they do post panels online reasonably soon afterwards. So keep an eye out for that. So that way you can participate in the message boards and stuff at home.
and watch this channel, because we have gained enough fans that we will be able to go live to YouTube. We will be live streaming from Facebook. A lot of special things from our event at Bunta Eve is I will be broadcasting live from the floor as much as I possibly can. And they won't let me like broadcast probably when I'm meeting people. They might let me broadcast live when I'm meeting Tim. I bet he would. So, we can have all sorts of that here for you guys to be able to join in the experience, because I think that's going to be a fun part of this celebration is being able to share it with you digitally and virtually. And if you've got a wild hair, if you want to get crazy, I think there are tickets available still. I know that there are people who, through Light and through just transferring, can still get you some 4-day passes. I want to say a couple of the days might still have availability from the official site. Get out there and do it. Join the Star Wars. Watch us online if you can't, and share in the sense of family, community, and cultism that we're about to experience and that's about to go forth. So, from all of us, thank you for watching us. Thank you for joining us in the chat. It's always great when we've got people coming in and joining us in the chat. It makes this show so much more lively. Next week will be a fifth Sunday, so we will not have either of our shows. It will be a fifth Sunday, so neither show will be there. But again, we'll be live here and there. You'll get to see us, and then we will be back with the Jedi Archives in the first week of June, and we're going to have a wrap up of things that happened at Celebration and start talking about Kenobi, which is going to
Yeah,
be crazy.
we'll be back on this show on June 12th.
Cool. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Hope to see you all then. Until then, may the Force be with you.
With you all.